Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to The Pale Beyond. This is the game that we're going to be doing an overview of today. So I've spent a fair few hours with it and I am happy to report that this game is really something special. At the top, I will just say, not quite caveat, but I think it's worth raising that this is being developed by the Bellular dudes. They've got a YouTube channel, they do gaming news, they've kind of exploded in the past sort of year or two. This isn't the first time that we've seen sort of a game enthusiast YouTube channel turn publisher. One that comes to mind is Two Left Thumbs, and the game that I can think of that they did was Dead Estate, but I believe they've done a whole bunch. So if you are interested in that sort of thing, perhaps the vote with your wallet sort of idea, I enjoy this potential paradigm shift of gamers, YouTubers, whatever you want to call it, news commentarians, putting their money where their mouth is and trying to break into the gaming industry. And if this is anything to go by, this sort of thing should be encouraged, because while many would argue, myself included, that perhaps the AAA industry is starting to lose its way a little bit, having gamers come from our community and put their money up to make a product that in many ways is better than what's on offer is something worth considering. I don't mean to preach or anything like that, only that I just find this interesting, and it is something that I've mused about over the years. If my channel ever actually did make it big and I had splash around money, then yeah, I'd probably do the same thing. I would get into the indie publishing space. So what is The Pale Beyond? The Pale Beyond is a narrative survival adventure game. It is based heavily on The Terror, a TV show which I think is phenomenal and everyone should watch. In fact, it should be a companion piece. If you do end up playing this game, watch The Terror also, which in turn was based loosely on actual real events of sister ships being lost in the Arctic region, I believe, essentially trying to find a passage through in the dying days of explorative sailing. This has you traveling south instead, aboard the Temperance, a modernized tall ship with a steam drive, in search of her sister ship, the missing Viscount, which, while gone missing and assuming with all hands, is said to hold some sort of MacGuffin, let's say, research data of enormous value. Regardless, that's your setup. You're chasing a ship in a ship, and you take on the mantle of Robin Shaw, the ship's first mate. I will draw attention to the writing straight away. I am very critical of modern gaming writing. It's no secret to anyone that's been paying attention that it is becoming very popular for writers to work their way into the gaming space, use it as an opportunity to, say, platform ideas before actually telling a story of interest. And whether or not you pay specific attention to this, you can sniff it out straight away. Long and short, the quality of writing in current year in gaming has degraded a lot. So what a pleasant surprise that the writing in this is punchy, it's poetic, and is actually multifaceted without ever outstaying its welcome. No walls of text with $10 words where it sounds more like the writer trying to justify his paid position on staff to you. The writing comes in short and concise statements that trust the player to be smart enough to understand the characters behind them, which is incredibly important because a really big part of the interplay of this game is conversing with the 20+ crew members of the Temperance, and in a way, I suppose, pandering to their personality types. Many just respond well to you showing an interest in them personally, but then there are others that are stubborn, grumbly, and they don't really have time for that sort of pleasantry, and you will lose loyalty with them. Once you do figure out a personality type, it can seem a little derivative, but broadly speaking, the writing is personalized to each character and your interaction with them, and it makes them very personable, and you become quite attached to them all, warts and all. The gameplay loop isn't just some visual novel where you chit-chat with people and try and balance a loyalty meter. That is one facet, but this is a multifaceted survival adventure. It plays out in turns, which are essentially weeks that pass by, and at the end of the week you need to feed and fuel your crew. The main health bar is actually decorum, which is kind of appropriate to the time period and setting. And should your decorum fall to 0, then that will be the end of it, right? So that is your health bar, or rather the health bar of the expedition. If you let people get malnourished, they can get scurvy and die. If you allow people to freeze, they can get frostbite and die. So it is a delicate plate spinning balance. I like to think of it as having 11 holes and only 10 fingers to put them in. Because a big part of how you carry out your survival mechanics is holding court, right? Daily having people come to you with concerns and you then dealing with them. This can manifest in sending dudes out to the ice to dig out the pack, or sending out sledding dogs for hunting or research. But ultimately, there's always something that you want to do, and only so many crew members per week turn. The crew is a diverse and eclectic bunch. They're not just all sailors, and it's not a military ship. It is definitely like a merchantman, but going in, it's probably worth noting, this isn't some military ship from the Age of Sail, Nelsonian type, where it's very much superstition and male-only crew. It does have a touch of modern sensibilities. While you are the first officer, I suppose the XO, depends how you want to look at it, of the ship, no one's really calling you sir. And for every hard sailor, there's research crew, civilians. By having all these civilians, you've got like a pseudo-celebrity on board. You have a photojournalist that is a bit of an airhead. You have a sledding master that doesn't really care as long as the dogs are looked after. You have to treat these people with respect. You can't just order them around. Your decisions do, in fact, have an impact. It isn't one of those, here's 5 dialogue choices, but they're not really choices. They're just dot points that you list off. This is something you see more and more in games, and I know people are getting frustrated with that. There are many occasions, even in the early going, where you pick one or the other and the other one is gone. Crew members will die, and this game is definitely not easy. I think that probably covers it broadly. I don't want to go into spoilers or specifics, because even in the early game going, I can tell it's actually setting me up to change radically. One of the cool things about it is it will just keep adding mechanics. Recently, I've been raiding the coal room and allocating a lot of dudes to that to just keep the heat up. We're also finding cordoned off cabins with like engineering equipment or research supplies that you have to break into, and that as well. Every day, every turn, it seems to add more and more mechanics, which is great because as someone who is a real survival horror enthusiast, let's say, the real danger of survival games, whether it's a colony or whether it's inventory management, what you are trying to do is min-max your resources. You are forever trying to develop a sense of stability. And as soon as you master that, if the game lets you master the rhythm and get into a rhythm in a survival setting, the game will lose you. It needs to keep you off balance, and this game actually is doing a very good job of that. Just when you think you've mastered the mechanics, bang, the game changes, the setting changes, the scenarios, rules are changing. Again, no spoilers. And now you have more mechanics to balance along with the old. And that is probably the greatest thing about this, actually, is that it keeps you guessing and it keeps you unsteady, but above all, it keeps you engrossed. So that's my overview for The Pale Beyond. Suffice to say, I love this. I highly recommend it. It's one of the coolest games that I've played this year, and you should definitely consider checking it out. If you've enjoyed this video and you enjoy this format, make sure you let me know. I appreciate the comments. I read them all. I like the feedback. You can do that, like, share, subscribe crap as well. The big thing that really helps the channel is becoming a member that supports it, especially in current year. But otherwise, I might just finish up there. Thanks again for joining me, team. We might just leave it there for the time being, and I will catch you guys on the next one.